Hi, I'm Barbara Bruce, and welcome to Get Out, a weekly virtual broadcast where we invite you to grab your friends and family, fill up the gas tank, oh, and don't forget the keys, and get out with us somewhere in the White Mountains. And of course, we are out today, kind of like on a field trip, I would say. And I'm here with Dave Smith, who is the district manager for the Pinetop-Lakeside Sanitary District. Hi, Dave.
Hi, good to have you here, Barbara.
Thank you, I'm glad to be here. And you know, this year, one of the things that I've noticed, and I said this is like a field trip, because when you're in school, you get to do things like this, and then you get adult and you just expect other people to handle it.
Right.
And of course, I live in this area, so I pay you my money every quarter.
Right.
And
How much is that?
$60.
A quarter,
Yes.
$20 a month.
And it has not gone up,
Right.
I will say that,
Okay,
so
good,
thank
good.
you very much.
Good.
And the reason that it's important for adults as well as kids to know about this, our water, this area, we need to know exactly what we can do to make it better, to keep the rates from going up, and what you do and how safe our water is to drink. Because a lot of people buy it in the store.
Right.
So would you tell us how far the district actually goes?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Again, the red lines kind of indicate the collections or the sewer lines, and basically up to the north corner, we are up around our district boundaries, around the just on this side of Home Depot and Lowe's, and then we travel. This is Highway 260. We travel down to the Country Club, which is far beyond here. This is the Country Club here, if you could post it there. But we go to the far east end of the Country Club. About 150 miles of sewer line. We have 20 lift stations that will move sewer from a low spot back to a gravity point, and we've been doing it since about 1980.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I think people don't realize exactly what area it encompasses, and I thought that would be nice. And because there's been a lot of questions, because there was the day of the digester, there's been the day of composting, everything has changed, everything has morphed. And so today we're going to have a little field trip
Great.
and look at some of these areas, because we did do this before, and a lot of people didn't show up, but this will give them the opportunity. And I might add that, as I said, because COVID is rampant still, people are concerned, and your annual open house is not going to happen. So you will do private tours, though by appointment, is that correct?
We will. Yeah, our business hours are from 7 to 5:30 Monday through Thursday, except for holidays. But yeah, we're open for tours.
Okay, that's great. Well, let's go out and let's take a tour,
Okay.
because I think people will be surprised exactly what is here and what they can do to help. Dave, I like that we've stopped here first, because this is right outside of the door. We come out of the building, the main building. But these two trucks are not cheap, and they have a big job to do. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we have, like I said before, we have about 150 miles of sewer line, and we have to know what kind of condition they're in. And so this here is our camera van. This is a camera that actually goes up the line. They can video the line. They can check what the condition of the line is, so they can report back to us whether or not we need to replace it, whether or not we need to cut the roots out of it. So this gives us a good assessment of what our system is like. Around the side is where the operator sits, where he's got a little computer and the video screen where he can actually see what's going on. But yeah, this is a technical piece of equipment, but it's really necessary so we can know what the condition of our system is.
And what does something like this cost?
This is about $180,000 for
Oh, my
this
goodness.
van, for everything that you see here.
And everything is so computerized today, but
Yes.
to be able to see that, and I have to say this because I know that some people are thinking it, that is really clean.
Well, believe it or not, our guys are, they have their sanitation, they want to keep their hands clean. They have a hose to wash it off, and they don't want to be working in dirty, environment. So
Good point. Thank you
they
for
try to
sharing
stay
that.
clean.
Absolutely. But my point is they take care of the equipment.
Oh, they do.
Because
Yeah.
this is so expensive. To replace it is really hard, and our rates would go up.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also this other vehicle over here. Oh my goodness, this looks complicated. And even the wasp or the bees are interested in it today.
Now this is what we use to actually clean the line. This is basically a wet dry vac. This creates the vacuum. The orange hose puts the water pressure up the line so we can actually clean the lines and then remove the debris that's in the sewer. You know, there's a lot of rocks. Sometimes we get rocks and other debris. So this is what we use to clean the lines with.
That is absolutely amazing.
That's about a $500,000 piece of equipment, not something you want to get very often.
No, not at all. And is there special training that has to be done on either of these vehicles?
You bet. It's not something that somebody can just run. It takes several months to get used to it, to know which levers to pull and when to stop and not break something.
Absolutely.
It does take training.
So when you hire people here, they pretty much have to have experience.
Well, we do on-the-job training.
Really?
Yeah, but it takes months for them to learn. And to be really efficient, it may even take a year, 2 years. It's pretty, not real technical, but it just takes repetition. It takes a lot of repetition to learn what you need to do.
Well, this is not the best smelling area to be in, but it really tells a tale, doesn't it?
Yeah, see, we're a biological treatment process. To treat the wastewater, we're using microorganisms, and we get a lot of things down the sewer that really don't belong. Rags, sticks, stones, toys, money we don't mind, sanitary hygiene products, latex, and none of that stuff our microorganisms will eat. So we have to remove it. This was installed probably 10 years ago, and it saves all of these rags that get caught up on this. It's called a step screen, and it's basically the wastewater is going through and it's capturing the stuff that doesn't belong in the sewer, and that way it doesn't clog up our pumps and other equipment along the line.
Does it get it all?
It doesn't get it all, but it gets most of the rags. Now the organic material is washed and is sent back to the system. In the back there's a washer compactor. It'll actually squeeze the water out, and it washes as much as you see it just turned on.
Wow.
It's lifting it up.
So this is automatic?
It's automatic. It senses the level. Once the level gets so high, it'll turn it on and bring the screenings is what's causing it the level to come up.
So Dave, this is actually an opportunity to educate the public of things they should not do.
Should not do. We have problems, very similar problems with our lift stations, pumps. People are throwing, especially with COVID, we have a run on jeans. People are cutting up their jeans and using them for whatever and flushing them down the toilets. Sanitary wipes that people, even though the package says that they're flushable, they are flushable. I'm not going to dispute that, but what they do is they cause problems with our pump. They get caught up in our pumps, they get caught up in sewer lines, and they create backups, clogs. Nobody wants raw sewage in their house. You don't want it down your street. And so the public education here is there's 3 P's that you need to remember with the sewer. Pee, poop, and paper. And that's toilet paper. That's the only things that should go down the sewer. These are a nuisance. They cause problems. They cause problems in our lift stations. Our guys are now going out on a weekly basis pulling pumps and pulling the rags, handy wipes, all the stuff that really doesn't belong in a sewer. In every bathroom that I've seen, there's a toilet and there's a trash can. And I think people mistake one for the other. They need to throw it in the right receptacle. There's a lot of flies in here too.
Yeah, there are flies in here. But you know, I want to say that growing up, those are things my parents taught me,
Right.
because my mother and father did not want to have to pay a plumber.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are all things that we can do. I mean, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, because if people don't stop, then we have to hire more people to take care of the problems that are created, what's in the sewer. And so then we'll have to raise rates, because now we have to man more people to take care of the problems. Instead of, we'd rather have our guys running the camera truck and the sewer truck to maintain our system, not to repair, not to attack emergencies.
Absolutely.
So-
Good education on this.
Good.
Now, let's go see some more.
Okay.
Well, we're in the main pump station. Can you tell us the Cliff Notes version of this building?
Yes, basically we're getting all the sewer from the area, and it's being pumped across the parking lot where the process begins. So down below us, underneath us, are 3 pumps, and their main purpose is just to move the liquid from here over to there. That's what it does.
It's what we learned in science class.
Yep.
This is an area that most people will not see unless they do a tour. And I ask you, can I really stand on this? Because there's a lot of water under me.
That's right. We were across where the pump station's at.
Yes.
That's pumping all the raw sewage here. It goes through this grit remover. It's just keeping things stirred up. And anything that's 2.5 times heavier than water will settle out, because we don't need grit in our system. So that's removing the grit. And then it comes in here and it dumps into our process. This is the aeration basin. That's where all the work really takes place. That's where the organic matter is removed.
It's amazing.
It is, it's cool.
Dave, we just walked around from the area that you showed us where we were standing, and you said everything comes out here. I'm looking at this right beyond, so what happens next?
Well, this is where all the wastewater comes in, which is really food. And what we're growing below us in this, we call it an aeration basin. And what we're doing is we're growing microorganisms, and the raw sewage coming in is actually the food for them. And then behind us, you'll see we aerate it, so we supply them with air, a place to live, food, and they grow and they eat the organic matter that's in the raw sewage. And so that's basically, they stay in here about 1.5 days, maybe 2 days, and their only job is to eat. That's what they do.
We
And they're
have
good
to
at it.
feed the microorganisms,
That's right.
though. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I know that most of our people that are viewing this are really surprised and maybe have never seen it or realized that this is what happens.
Yeah, it's really a simple process. It's mimicking Mother Nature, except in a controlled environment. You know, you'll see dead animals alongside the road. Eventually, they're gone, right? Just they get eaten up by everything that's around. Same thing. We have organic matter coming in from the sewer, and we have all different types of microorganisms in here just chewing away.
Well, I have to divert just a moment and ask you a question.
Okay.
How in the world would a person grow up and aspire to do something like this?
Well, I don't think anybody does. I know I didn't. I didn't say, hey, when I grow up, I want to work at a wastewater plant. You know, that wasn't on my radar. It was something that I chose because I was interested in the environment. And later on in life, I was in my 30s and saw an opportunity and went to school to get some education on it. Went to college and learned about water and wastewater, specifically on water and wastewater. And I've been doing that ever since, about 31 years now. So.
And it's a good thing for us that somebody wants to do this.
It's really fascinating. It's a shame that more people don't know about it, because it is a good career, both water and the wastewater side, because you're really helping the environment. Without treatment, our environment continues to decay. So it's important that we take care of what we have.
This is an important lesson, everybody. Pay attention. Dave, we were just talking about the aeration, and so we're in that spot. And what are these big pipes here?
Yeah, this is supplying the air. You can see the bubbles, kind of like a fish tank aerator. So what we have is we're bubbling air from the bottom, and that feeds or doesn't feed, it supplies them with the air that they need to survive. The bottom part, we use a lot of acronyms in our world for some reason. It's just return activated sludge. It means it's taking, we're going to go see the clarifiers next, and the solids that settle out, well, they need to go back because they're full of microorganisms that are now hungry. They've been out of oxygen and out of food. So now we're going to return the activated sludge back to the head of the plant, where you saw the brown pipe that was dumping the dark brown stuff back in the plant. That's what this pipe is. This is just, again, it's just supplying the air. We have a series of 18 air headers with they call them fine bubble diffusers, and they just they're really efficient, little tiny bubbles. That's a song, isn't it?
Yes, but that was by Don Ho
Don
in
Ho.
Hawaii.
Okay. But anyhow, so we're supplying air, keeps the microorganisms happy. They stay in here again about 1.5 days, maybe 2 days, and then they go over to the clarifiers, which is our next stop.
That's amazing. Do these ever break?
These pipes?
Yes.
I hope not in my lifetime. They're
Okay.
steel.
I just wondered,
So,
they're steel.
they're
Okay, you
steel.
can't tell that with them being
Yeah.
painted. That's great. Yeah, let's go see the clarifier.
All right.
And one of the things I noticed walking up, there are hoses everywhere.
There's a lot of cleaning that has to take place. We're in an environment, we have water, we have sunlight, and algae grow great. So our guys have to come out here on once or twice a week. We call these weirs where the water is dumping into.
Yes.
So we have to make sure all that stays clean. So they're always cleaning it with the hose.
How do they clean it? Just the hose?
Well,
Oh,
once
my
in a while they
goodness.
get inside, but basically
Wow.
they're just kind of washing off the. What's that?
I could use that to clean the house off
Yes,
with,
you
right?
could. Yes.
This is great. So this is another part of the process.
This is where the solids from the oxidation or aeration basin comes into here in the center part. You can see where it's brown. That's the brown water from over here.
Wow.
And it settles out. And so now the clear liquid, which I just stirred it up, but the treated water is what's coming over those weirs, and that'll go over to get chlorine injected into it to disinfect it or to kill off the disease-causing organisms.
You know, at this point, I want to tell kids that might be watching, pay attention. This could be your report this year.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is an essential part of the process because we need to separate the good from the bad, right?
Yes.
And so the clear liquid is what's going up to the marsh. We talked about the marsh before, right?
Yes, we did.
It's 128 acres of several ponds, and that's where this water will go to. It's about a mile from here, and we send up, on an average, about a million gallons a day up to the marsh.
You know, it's so amazing because most people just have this in their mind that everything happens in a straight line, but it definitely is not that way here, and it's spread out over a large area.
It is.
Dave, you know, we were talking about how most people think everything goes in a straight line, and it's not that way. Tell us how all this gets up to the composting area.
Okay, so we have reproduction going on in the ditch. So we only want a certain volume of microorganisms. And so the ones, when it exceeds what we want, we have to get rid of them. We call it wasting, we get rid of them. And so the majority of them will go back to the head of the plant where we saw, and then a small percentage will go up to the top of the hill where we do our composting. We'll look at a belt press up there and how we compost, but that'll be after we see our chlorine disinfection.
Good, and I want to talk about chlorine, so this
Okay.
is a good opportunity. Let's go.
Okay.
Dave, I'm glad we're going to talk about chlorine because it's right behind us and everything is regulated. But I remember when I first moved here, I opened the Holiday Inn Express on the Deuce of Clubs.
Okay.
And one of the things I learned is, you know, we had a swimming pool, and everybody thinks you have to put lots of chlorine in, and you know, then your eyes burn and everything else. And I found out from the health department inspector that it takes a lot less. Is that true with this as well?
It is, and we monitor our chlorine. We call it our chlorine residual. We test it at least once a day, but it's necessary for disinfection. And what we have here is our chlorine cylinders. Each of them hold about 150 pounds of chlorine gas. These things on top, we have a chlorine detector. So if it detects a chlorine leak from one of these tanks, these valves will automatically shut down and shut the chlorine process off.
So that's
there's
safety.
Safety. And it'll also sound an alarm and turn on the fans. But anyhow, so these have to be changed out on a weekly basis. And the gas chlorine is just being fed through this plastic pipe, and it's being injected into a water line that is eventually going to our chlorine contact basin on the other side of that wall.
Will we see that?
We can.
Okay, let's check that out. You know, we like to know where everything goes. So you said the chlorine comes out this way?
Yeah, it comes out to a pipe right here, and it goes down into this little wet well area. And now it's mixing with the water that's coming from the clarifiers, and it's going through the serpentine, and it'll go out to the gate. And then underneath there are the pumps that are pumping it to the marsh. So this is just, they call it the chlorine contact basin because chlorine needs time to react. That's why it takes time for it to do its business in here.
That's amazing. All right, let's go see something else now.
Okay.
You know, people would be surprised all the walking that we're doing because everything is not just right where you would think it would be, but it's in the right proximity of all the things that are needed. But now we're in an area, and again, I talk about money because everything really matters when we talk about money and the upgrades and so forth. I understand that this is part of your upgrade that you guys have done.
Correct. These are 2 new blowers that we installed about 5 years ago, and they're the ones that are supplying the air for the oxidation ditch. And what makes them efficient is we can adjust the speed of these blowers depending on our need. We don't need to be 100% all the time. We may be running at 30%, maybe at 70%. And so
what determines that?
It really determines, for one, the temperature of the water, because air comes out of water when the water is warm. So during summertime, typically they have to run a higher speed. When the water is colder, then air can stay in the water longer. It's just a chemistry thing. But it also depends on how much food we're getting from the public. Like when we have visitors come, heavy weekend, we may need more air because they're giving us more food. So it's really, we have to determine what our loading is coming into the plant. And we have probes that are out there on the ditch that tell us what's going on, and it'll turn these blowers on and off as they're needed.
And what does something like this cost?
This was about $125,000.
Oh my goodness, everything I talk to you about has a big dollar
It
price
has,
with it.
yes.
Yeah.
But this here, I mean, we're talking savings of about $80,000 to $90,000 a year, so it's pretty much paid for itself.
Now you're talking about the electricity, right?
Electricity, yeah.
Yeah. We don't think about that. It actually costs to use the electricity, so that's a big cut.
It is. Plus the maintenance on these are a lot different than, that's an old blower behind us. And you know, there was belts and oil that you had to change. They're spinning in a magnetic force field basically. So they're spinning at real high RPM. So they're just more efficient. There's less moving parts. And they're a lot less noisy than what the old ones were.
And you were kind enough to turn off the blower so that we could
Well,
actually hear you.
that was actually the exhaust fan.
Oh, was it really?
That was
the exhaust fan.
That's noisier than what these are.
Oh my goodness.
And we were talking about the aeration system. These are the diffusers. You can't see them, but there's little tiny holes all through this, and this is what the bubbles come out of.
I cannot see them.
Yeah, they're just, if you see in the
Oh, I
light
can
reflection,
now. Oh, you have to get at a certain angle.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why they create the real fine bubbles.
Wow.
But that's what we have down in the bottom of that aeration basin.
This is incredible. You know, the last time that we came up here, Dave, we came in the little ATV.
Side by side, yeah.
Yeah, we came up in that. But today we huffed and puffed up here.
All the way up the hill.
Yes,
Yeah, all the way up
indeed.
the hill.
But you know, this was one of my favorite rooms. Tell us about it.
Well, we talked about the waste, the sludge that we don't want anymore. By the way, the industry has tried to change the name to make it sound more appealing.
Yes.
Sludge. They've gone to residuals, now they call it biosolids. But anyhow, the stuff left over that we want to get rid of comes to this room, and that piece of equipment behind us, we're mixing a polymer with it, which is a chemical that makes the particles want to congregate. We call it flocculation. And so we add the chemical, we run it across the machine. This sludge is typically about 99% water, 1% solids. We put the chemical to it, and now we can get it about 84% water and 16% solid. Is my math right on that? I think it is. About 16%
I don't know. I don't have my cell phone to use the calculator.
Well, that's typically, we get about 15 or 16% solids out of it. And the machine, what it does is it has a gravity section where the water drains through, and then it goes through a press. 2 belts come together and they mechanically squeeze the rest of the water out. And then it goes through this auger, and you can see the end result on the outside of the building.
Absolutely. It comes right out on the outside.
Yeah. And our staff actually built and installed this, did all the concrete work. We have a pretty talented staff. So that's pretty amazing. Anyhow, so that's that was a plug for our employees, by the way.
And I actually remember that from before.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that's good. Let's see where it comes out, can we?
Okay, sure.
This is a lot.
Yeah, this is the result of the belt press. It doesn't look, actually looks drier than 15, 16%, but that's what it is. It still has a lot of water in it. but you can see the difference from inside the building to outside. This machine was started, I think we started up operation on it about the first of the year, and it's been a real great help for us.
That's fantastic. Another good thing. Now we're going to go into the area where composting takes place, right?
That's right, yep.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
You know, if we weren't over here, Dave, the rest of what we're going to see would not make sense.
Right.
And of course, many people know I did a lot of stories on the Save the Digester, which was the thing at one time.
Right.
And they may recognize this equipment. So tell us a little bit about it, a refresher, if you will.
Okay, it's just basically a piece of farm equipment that actually mixes. It's got augers in there that we put, it's got a scale here so we can actually measure.
In here.
In here.
Yes.
So what we're doing is we're looking at the scale and we're dumping our dewatered sludge that we saw over there. We're dumping in so many pounds, and then we put in so many pounds of wood chips. And it mixes it up, and then they'll haul it in the building and they'll place it on the aerated floors. So that's all this is. It's just basically it's a piece of farm equipment that's used for composting.
And there's a lot of farmers that have moved out here that recognize
That
this
piece of
equipment.
right.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that want to buy compost, and you do still sell it, right?
We do.
Okay. This building was constructed for the digester, is that correct?
It was. Well, this first part was where the original wastewater treatment plant was
Right
at.
here?
Right here, right where
Really?
this old part of the building, there was a 500,000 gallon a day treatment plant here that was constructed in 1980. And when they built the new one, they put this digester, the first digester in, I think 92 or 94, they put it right in here. They got rid of all the tanks that were in here and then suited it for the composting needs.
How amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, we have walked through here before, you and I several times,
Yeah.
just so that I could get a good feel and see what was going on. And it actually looks cleaner today.
The process that we use now obviously is cleaner. And we've gotten rid of a lot of the equipment, but the still composting process is taking down here. We have air, you can see the concrete dig outs, that's where the aeration headers are at. And so we're supplying air to all the compost piles. We're monitoring the temperatures. Down at the other end of the building, you'll see where we stockpile our wood chips, and we'll bring the tractor around and we'll add the dewatered sludge, the wood chips, and then we'll make these composting piles.
I'm part of the operations staff, and we operate the treatment plant that you toured already, and also we build compost and make compost for the community. You saw the biosolids in the belt press over there. Those solids are in that pile right there, big pile of biosolids, and so we blend that with that mixer that you previously saw, blend that with wood chips. We're not using the cardboard or trash anymore, so it's a lot cleaner product. And then we put them in these piles that you already saw, and they stay in those piles a minimum of 14 days. And they have to get up to a certain temperature. I think it's 131 for 3 days, and then it has to be over 103 for, have to average 111, be over 103 for 14 days to reduce pathogens and vector control, get rid of the bugs. We still have flies because it is a wastewater plant.
Yes, and we can see that we have flies.
But we do reduce the pathogens and the vector control by keeping it in these piles, and we aerate the piles. And then from there, we take it through a screen that takes the wood chips back out, and we reuse those. And then the solids or the compost at that point comes out. And it's a much cleaner operation because we don't have the digester. We're not utilizing the cardboard and the trash anymore.
Exactly.
So it's just a much cleaner operation. We're producing a better product, I think, as well.
I know that we're standing where the digester used to be. This is just such a huge building. It's just unbelievable. And 2 times ago that I was over here looking, everything was piled up along the wall. It was just so much trash that everybody had to go through to get it out so that they could begin the process.
It got to be pretty inundating with cardboard.
This has been the best education today, and I hope that people really paid attention. And we're ending up where the compost is.
Right.
This is what people can come and actually purchase, right?
Correct. This has been, the far pile hasn't been tested. Well, it's out to the lab to get tested, but everything else is ready to sell. We can't sell it till it's been tested, and it's called a Class A biosolids, meaning it's for unrestricted use. That's what we produce here as a Class A. So you can buy this, $10 if you buy a bunch. If you just want to pick up truckload, it's $20.
Wow.
And we actually load it until we start busting people's vehicles, then we'll have to change policy.
Oh my goodness. And of course people take this, they put it in their gardens.
On their lawns.
Yeah.
I think the town of Pinetop-Lakeside last month bought 245 yards of it. So they bought most of that pile right there.
So really it does sell.
It does.
This is good.
Compost sells because the operators have to actually operate the treatment plant. We will load your compost from 8 in the morning till 11 in the morning, and then from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. It's not that they're taking long lunch breaks, but they have a wastewater plant to run, and but that's the times that they can come and pick up compost.
Well, thank you for this great tour. This was amazing. So remember, you can go back and look at it again if you missed anything on Get Out.